Greetings, YouTube. It is hard to believe that I've been playing Marvel Contest of Champions now for over 4.5 years. That is longer than a presidential term, almost as long as it took me to graduate from undergrad, hashtag 5 years, and, longer by a country mile than my significant relationships, which I never know if that says more about my significant relationships or my commitment to MCOC. Maybe a little bit of both. But I say that because I have made more mistakes in my mastery setup than anyone I know. I did not research masteries. I did not care about masteries. I did almost nothing with masteries for like the first 2 years I played the game. And I suffered big time for it. My PI of my champs was laughably low. And I would go into the mastery setup when I would get a new point every once in a while when I would, level up. And I would think to myself, I'm going to put everything in strength because I like to attack. I like to hit. That's why I downloaded the game. So sure, I'll increase the attack of all my champions. And then after I max that out, I'll increase it some more. So like literally all my points were in strength and greater strength. And I would see, because I never had units, because I also would just blow them on crystals, that I would see that there were other masteries in the tree that required like mastery cores, and I always thought, why would I waste units on those when I can increase my strength and greater strength? And this was literally my thought process. I didn't know what Parry was. I didn't know how to dex. I remember the first time that I saw a YouTube video where somebody perfectly dexed the special one of OG Iron Man. And it looked to me like a magic trick. Like they had just done some literal voodoo through my computer. And I thought it was like a cheat code that you used to have to put into like Mortal Kombat. Or I've been referencing lately NBA Jam because of the big head mode. And so I just was stunned. But as it turns out, that was pretty easy to do. And as it turns out, even though masteries can be very expensive, there are so many reasons why you should want to put your units into mastery cores, especially over crystals. You need to look at a crystal as a gamble, as a slot machine. It is the Marvel Casino of Champions. I don't care if you're opening a premium disappointment crystal or a 5-star crystal or a 6-star crystal. You are hoping for a good champion, but you have no control. Unless it's a Nexus crystal, right? You can't choose it. It's up to fate, and most of the time fate is going to be RN Judas, not RN Jesus. Jesus blesses you. Judas betrays you. But what doesn't betray you is the guaranteed value of masteries. And so I wanted to use my mastery setup to talk about what I believe are the best mastery points that you can use. And when I see subscribers, I always immediately ask, show me your mastery setup. If I was to see you right now, you watching this, if I was to meet you on the street and you're going to open up your game, and by the way, I just want to say, most people would look at you like you're crazy if you talk about Marvel Contest of Champions. If I'm talking about mastery setup, they're going to look at you like you're the biggest nerd in the world. Maybe throw a glass of water in your face. Why does that sound oddly specific? Because it happened to me. It's a long story. But point being, it's kind of cool to see somebody that plays MCOC and get to talk about it openly. It's like speaking the same language and not being shunned. So I am a firm believer now in offense that you should not invest anything into the left side of the tree past 1 point. And I even mean this for courage, which is highly debatable because there are a lot of people out there who disagree with me and they have valid points, but this is just my channel, my opinion. Except for precision and especially cruelty. You need to make sure before you go anywhere to the right side of the tree that you get at least 4 points, if not 5 points, in those two masteries. Everything else can wait for offense. Now, my dungeon buddy, ex-dungeon buddy, now incursion buddy, I guess we should say, Battle Room Bestie, has preached the points that have changed my mind in terms of assassin. It is a diminished returns of value, putting the cores into assassin past 1. This might be argued effectively if you're going into content like The Abyss or Labyrinth of Legends or even Act 6. But in terms of like a monthly quest or even Alliance quest, and I'd even throw Alliance War in there, I think 1 point in Assassin is fine. I don't use Void at all. It is the one rank up that if I had a rank down ticket, if that still existed, I would take my 5-star 565 void to 4, rank 4, because I don't use them anymore and I despair, literally, over that. Now, I'm going to talk about 2 things regarding the Suicide Mastery setup. First off, if you go to my profile, you'll see that my champs have an insane PI. Black Widow Clairvoyance almost 17,000, right? This is not normal. This is like ratings on steroids because of the Suicide Mastery setup above. But if you don't want to do suicides, and if you are in an alliance that actually forbids you from doing that, in Alliance War particularly, just put 3 out of 3 in Glass Cannon. That is going to be my best tip in terms of the mastery value. And then I have 5 out of 5 in Deep Wounds because I run heavy bleeders, right? I run Blade still a lot. I run Ghost Rider. I run Domino, and I run even sometimes X-23, Black Widow Clairvoyant, just champions that utilize bleed. If you don't, this is a different suggestion. But in general, there are so many great attacking bleed stacking champions. Nick Fury is one that I wish I could use more because his bleed is insane. But, most of these you don't want to max out or even put more than 1 point in for offense. Now, defensively, willpower, I didn't have willpower for like over a year. And I kind of forgot about it and I ignored it, and I'd only think about it when I'd be fighting somebody in the arena who had willpower, and I was like, oh, they've got willpower on. But it has saved me in so many fights, especially in Act 6 and some of the variant content. I can afford willpower in terms of my mastery point usage because it is worth it. And I especially want to point that out, and I've talked about this in the past week or so, but there are so many Doom bots, if you're running map 5, especially the Science Doom bot, that can turn into a free health potion just by having willpower active. I have maxed out willpower, and then I also have salve. I would not put this on the highest tiered list. It's important for me because it gives me a little bit more health recovery, but I absolutely would max out recovery. And if you can only have the points to do one or two, forget about salve. Just put 1 point in that to get to recovery, max out recovery. Now, this is one of those rare masteries that a bunch of people have made fun of me over the years for having any points in, but I stick with it because not only is it a good boost of PI, but I like to bait heavies with heavies. I still am not the best at intercepting even after playing this game for 4.5 years. And so Stand Your Ground has saved me sometimes, particularly when I'm backed up against the wall versus Thing, because I didn't do a good job of having him eliminate his rock stacks because he wasn't at 15 when he fired off a special. And so because of that, I am stuck in the corner and I've got to figure out how to survive, and Stand Your Ground sometimes has saved me. In terms of proficiencies, I am a firm believer that you should start with 1 point in Parry and use those 2 points for Stupefy. And then once you get more points, go back to Parry. But I would absolutely max out Stupefy before Parry. And I see quite a few summoners that send me their mastery setup make that mistake. They'll max out Parry, but they'll have Stupefy at 1 out of 3. And I truly believe that that is a mistake and something that is actually hurting your chance of utilizing Parry to its best degree. Because keep in mind, every point in Stupefy extends the duration of that parry, that reflective stun, when you have the quote-unquote perfectly timed block. This is the setup that I prefer for both Alliance Quest and the Arena. If I fought Alliance War, I would probably never have Suicide Masteries because I would be in a position to where I either had to spend a ton of units to reset my mastery constantly after I placed my defenders, or I would have to suck up the fact that I'm placing defenders that could end the fight strictly because of recoil damage from firing off specials. I will say this though, I used to lose a lot of Alliance War fights because I didn't have a Corvus and I didn't have a Cold Snap immune champion, and so I would go in against Iceman, say with Stark Spidey, and if you fight an Iceman that is full suicides, It didn't matter about the recoil because I wasn't able to have him fire off mini specials before I got knocked out, because by the time that cold snap damage stopped that started the fight, I was under like 50% health, and that's if Stark Spidey was at full health. There were also times where I'd bring in him at 70 health, and then he'd be dead before I could even take advantage of that recoil damage. So the idea that Alliance War automatically means you shouldn't have Suicide Masteries is a myth in some cases, but if you're fighting really skilled fighters, you don't want your boss or mini bosses to be easier to take down because of taking that 5% damage from the recoil mastery. Well, there you have it, YouTube. I did my best to keep this somewhat efficient, but it still is over 10 minutes longer than usual. But I wanted to cover all the masteries and really start with Parry and Stupefy, and then Recovery and Cruelty, and make your way slowly to Glass Cannon and some of the other expensive masteries. But as somebody who's been tweaking mastery setup now for, golly, about 3 years, I'm a firm believer in this mastery setup, and I hope it helps you. If you at least just want to raise the PI of your champions, you would be amazed. Just make sure to put those units into masteries and not into crystals, because there's guaranteed value versus the Marvel Casino of Champions, which is the opposite of guaranteed value. Have a great day, YouTube. Thanks for watching.